Hello, folks, and welcome to another Flycast Partners presentation, or I should say co-presentation with Ivanti. Ivanti and Flycast Partners have decided to join forces and put on a lunch and learn for you, all of you, a virtual lunch and learn. And today's lunch and learn's on unified endpoint management. Just to get a little housekeeping out of the way, for those of you that order pizza, all the orders have been put through, although some of the deliveries will not be there till about 12:30, as I'm told by Domino's, for those of you in the East Coast. So there's different store hours for different stores, so please be patient. So the latest you should receive anything is probably about 1. Those of you that we could not get something delivered to will be reached out to by our account managers. They're going to reach out to you and give you an alternative because evidently there's some areas that they're just not doing deliveries right now. And I apologize for that if that's the case, but we'll make sure that we take care of that for you. Before we get started, let me go ahead and introduce our presenter today, Kyle Hamilton. I'm sure a lot of you already know him. Kyle is an experienced pre-sales senior solutions consultant. He's had extensive experience in collaborating with clients on IT strategies. He has been in this industry for well over 20 years and has an experience of a variety of different tools ranging from different publishers and IT service management, IT asset management, IT operations management, and he's been in multiple types of positions in his past, allowing him to have a bigger picture in mind when helping organizations with their IT needs. Before we get started, Kyle, let me introduce Flycast Partners a little bit. Flycast Partners is here to deliver a seriously amazing IT experience. We are founded and staffed by folks that have many years of IT experience and in this space, and took those best collective experiences and added the best components necessary to grow and become a leading value-added reseller in the North American IT market. We offer best-in-class implementation services and training in IT service management, IT asset management, and IT operations management, as well as batch processing, all using ITIL best practice. Our professional services team can scale up or down to meet the IT needs of any organization, regardless of your size, complexity, or budgetary restrictions. We offer implementation services both on-site and remote, as well as training to help reinforce your company's long-term IT success. Our ongoing remote administration and support service offerings will enable your organization to focus on those normal day-to-day operations, saving you both precious time and money. I encourage you to give us a call at 844-FLYCAST, that's 844-359-2278, or you can simply go to our website and chat with one of our IT experts. Right there in that bottom right-hand corner, you see that little green box? Yes, that is where you can start chatting with them during more normal business hours, Monday through Friday. They'll be happy to talk to you, or you can email us at info@flycastpartners.com. This is one of many webinars that we offer here at Flycast Partners, as well as many different events. You also can go to our website and download industry white papers and data sheets, or just simply browse around and look for different technologies that you may not be familiar with. With that being said, I'm not going to take up any more of Kyle's time because I know he has a lot to present today. We have a large audience, so I want to ask those of you that are having difficulty with audio or anything like that, please go ahead and reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you any way I can. We have an extremely large audience today, which very happy to see this number of folks so interested in our topic today. I turn it over to you, Kyle.
Okay, thank you very much, Rich. Can you hear me all right?
I hear you fine.
Perfect. Can you see my screen okay?
I see your screen. It looks good.
All right, perfect. Well, I want to welcome everybody to the Lunch and Learn today. Again, my name is Kyle Hamilton. I'm an engineer with Flycast. And my goal today is to provide you with an overview of the capabilities within Ivanti's user endpoint management solution, and talk about a lot of the gaps and the needs that this solution can fill. One thing that we not typically, but always hear from customers now is one of the big things they're trying to get rid of is application sprawl. I talked with a customer just before this call who had a different tool for managing their mobile devices. They had a different tool for imaging. They had a different tool for deploying applications, and they had no real tool that was really, or one tool that was keeping up with inventory. They actually had multiple tools. So one big reason, or one big benefit of Ivanti's endpoint management solution is the ability to collapse all of those applications down into a single pane of glass and get rid of that application sprawl. Another big reason customers are looking for an endpoint management solution is due to, well, now with all the recent changes with COVID-19, of course, the workplace has changed drastically. So I would venture to say there may be some people on the call that are now looking at solutions that are going to provide things like remote management, and the capability to deploy software remotely and patch devices that may no longer be sitting on the network. They may be in multiple locations, as well as being able to provide a tool that can help knock down the silos between the different IT support processes. And with endpoint management, we have the capability to easily tap in and tie into your service management tool, whether that be Ivanti Service Management or some other third-party application. One of the primary purposes of collecting this inventory information I'm about to talk about is for not only having it to manage the endpoint, but then to also populate an asset database or a CMDB within your service support or service desk, so that as they're supporting customers, they're trying to implement changes, they have access within that support tool to be able to tap into all of this inventory data to provide them a better understanding of what the environment looks like, how it's configured, and to be able to make decisions correctly based on whether it's appropriate to make that change at this time or not, based on the impact that it may have. So with that said, the first big capability that Ivanti's endpoint management tool provides is the capability to collect and keep up to date all of that inventory information. And the first way it does that is through what's called unmanaged device discovery. This simply means you need to be able to sweep your network just to be able to understand what you have to deal with, what's actually out there and connected. So this unmanaged device discovery is before we've deployed anything to the endpoints or installed any profile on a mobile device. We just need to know what's out there and what it is, so that you can make decisions, based on that discovery scan. So this is designed to simply sweep parts of your network, subnet by subnet, and as it goes through and pings those devices, it'll show you your computers and your switches and your routers and your printers and all the different devices that are out there on your network that are connected. Now, as is in the title, these are unmanaged devices, so we know they're out there, but we have no management capability, no capability to make a change or shut it down or reboot it or affect any kind of update. In order to do so, we need to deploy an agent, that endpoint management agent on those devices. Now that can be done automatically. So if it detects a new device on the network, just automatically push an agent onto that device, or it can be done selectively from this list. There may be some devices that you choose not to manage, or you don't care to manage, or it's not worth managing. So you may want to be able to take this unmanaged discovery scan once a day, every morning, and be able to make sure that everything that you care about and need to manage has one of those agents installed. And with endpoint management, you've got agents that you can deploy for Unix, Linux, Windows, and Mac OS. And of course, it also covers, if we're talking the mobile device realm, your Android and your iOS devices. Now, once you deploy an agent to one of those devices, they become a part of your topology, your network. So you'll see up here at the top, I can take a look at everything that's in my inventory that I have current management capability over. It's got that profile installed on that Android device. It's got the agent installed on the Windows machine as well as the Linux server. Now, you also don't want to have to dig through or address everything, based on just looking at all devices. So it also provides a nice ability to create simple scopes that you can use. And these are simple queries that you build so that you can easily address all of your desktop devices or all of your SQL servers just by creating those scopes. So you can logically group your inventory because that's going to become important when it comes to applying desktop policies, changing, making updates to those machines, applying patches, certainly, maybe even just scheduling when the inventory occurs for those devices. You want to be able to break those things up so that you can treat them differently if need be, and of course, be able to use them in different scenarios. So we'll talk about some of those as we go through. Now, if I look at any device within my inventory, as I click on it, I have an ability to pull up a little context menu, and this is where I can, you can see that there's an inventory record, but if you want to actually dig into the details, hardware configuration, software configuration, then this inventory detail window is going to pull up all of the information that you could possibly want related to, the BIOS and the memory configuration and things like that. So this gives me the ability to dig, into the details, whether it's related to, their BIOS or whether it's a piece of software or details about the operating system on their machine. So all of this content that we're picking up and scanning on some scheduled basis, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, we'll talk about the schedule in a second. This again is all getting synchronized with, or can be, with your service desk application, so that that asset database, that CMDB that they're managing is constantly being fed and kept up to date. Now you'll also notice through here, that same context menu, if I want to have remote control access, or I want to take some corrective action, like apply a patch, I'm also through that same little pop-up menu, so I can give users the ability to initiate a remote control session, again, whether that device is sitting right next to me or whether that device is across the globe, as long as we have that endpoint management agent. Administrators as well as maybe service desk staff can then easily open up a remote control session with a user that's contacted the service desk. So being able to leverage the remote control capabilities in here to provide remote support for callers to the service center. Now, when I mentioned using the scopes and those groups repeatedly, anytime you're talking about, so far I've been talking about collecting data, collecting hardware and software information, and collecting, OS details. We're talking about pushing something out to the endpoints, when they might be deploying a patch, pushing a desktop application, or maybe even pushing an OS image out to some, brand new bare metal machine you just plugged in. That we can do by looking at those scopes. So I'm going to pull up patch and compliance as the first example. You'll see the minute I open up this patch and compliance dashboard, it displays for me a list of pre-built dashboards. You can configure your own. It'll show me details related to, how many patches are, missing from certain devices, and how many critical machines are missing, critical patches. But I can also, look at things. And let's take a look right now. Let's make sure we're looking at everything, and I'll talk about that. So right now, you'll notice I'm looking at this dashboard where I'm log in, and I'm looking at all devices, but I might only want to look at patch and compliance information for my Apple machines or just my servers. So as I select those scopes, my dashboard updates to give me information that's respective of the scope, so that again I can use those scopes that I create, those groupings, not just for the dashboards, but also when it comes time to look at deploying those patches, being able to treat my servers differently than I do my desktops or my laptops. Now, if I look down into the patch folders just down below, and this will take just a second to pull up, this is pulling up a list of all of the patches that I've down, all the vulnerability content, all the patch metadata and content, so that I can actually review the details of those patches. Right, here's a long list of patches that I've pulled down, everything from Apple to Java and Microsoft, of course, and on and on. Now, for each one of these, now I can view details by simply clicking on that particular patch, and this is where I can get into looking at the actual metadata as it relates back to the CVE and general vendor information. So I can make decisions as to what I want to do with that patch or service pack, or how I want to treat it. So I may want to, let's say, for example, this particular service pack, I find a problem with it. Maybe I do some testing, decide this is not something we want to deploy. So I can take that patch and simply throw it in the do not scan folder, right? Or removes it from there, and it throws it kind of on this exclusion list. I want to leave all these things out. Now I may leave them out forever, or it may be something that needs to be applied, but we've got to do some mitigation in the meantime, make some changes in order to, to correct whatever incompatibility exists. So there may become a day when I want to take, that particular patch, and I want to throw it back out there so that it does get scanned, the next time that schedule comes around. So these folders become critical in allowing you to not only decide how to treat those patches, but also by using the scopes, how we want to deploy those patches. So if we look down here, you'll see a little scheduled task tab. And under this list of scheduled tasks, you'll see a whole slew of different things. We'll mention some of the others in a moment. But one may be a patch, for example. So this particular patch I created simply by going into that compliance module and taking one of my patches, and let's just take this Apple patch. And I take that and I drag that patch onto this scheduled task tab. Right, so all I had to do is come in here and I drop that into this window, and it leaves me with a task that I can then kick off on some group of machines. So I may want to apply this patch, as an example, to all of my laptops. So I can grab that scope, grab all of my machines from the laptop group, drop them onto that patch, and it will throw all of them in there, and it'll either kick off on some predefined schedule, or I can execute those patches immediately so that they'll all go active and start installing. And then I can use the window that I can expand down below to actually see the status of all of those individual devices. So they'll start to report back, install completed, successful, failed. You can see these main categories. so I can track the distribution of that. The same thing I do with patch and compliance from a distribution standpoint. We also do, of course, from a download. So how do you get all of the patch data and content? That comes from Ivanti. They provide that through what's called the Shadley patch engine. And you can see here in this list of definition types, this is where I can select whether I'm interested. You know, if I don't have any Linux and Unix in the environment, probably not necessary. Same thing for Mac. But maybe I have Windows devices and I want to pick Windows, you know, updates. Or maybe I have Dell, HP, or Lenovo devices, and I want to be able to download and manage the driver packages for, you know, all my HP, Dell, or Lenovo machines, like BIOS updates, NIC card updates, video card updates. So allowing you to download, define what kind of content you want to manage and download. And then again, you can do that as needed manually, or I can take this and throw that into that schedule tab so that it's going to run on some repeated schedule and pull down all of that content so that I have it, you know, here and available for review, so that I can again start making decisions as to what I want to do with the patch and which machines I want to deploy it to. The biggest advantage of Ivanti's endpoint management and that Shadley engine specifically is the long list of third-party apps that it allows you to manage through here. So not just the Windows world, but Java and Flash and Chrome and Firefox and Citrix, all the way to Yahoo Messenger. So it gives you the ability to manage all of these third-party applications, much like you know, a lot of customers do with WSUS, but be able to handle Adobe and all of the other big vendors, and not just Microsoft. Now, at the same time, you may be building and deploying software, just like download and deploy patch content. So you want to be able to manage the application environment on all the endpoints. So this gives me the ability to go in and create all kinds of different types of software packages, right? Depending upon whether I'm simply pulling down, you know, Android or iOS apps and deploying those to my mobile devices, the apps I want them to have, all the way to building more Windows distributions. Everything from MSI installs to running batch files or PowerShell scripts against those machines, so that we can install software, as well as, of course, through, you know, PowerShell and things like batch files, be able to, you know, initiate and execute changes and updates through those scripts and be able to deploy those. Now, in much the same way that I went in and, you know, can create a scheduled distribution for a patch, I can do the same thing with my software packages. So if I've created an install, for example, for FileZilla, right, and I want to deploy that, I can just, now I can do it a couple ways. You can see up at the top, I can click create scheduled task and it'll do it for me. Or I've got the ability to simply grab this, bring it down to the scheduled task tab and drop it, right? And then it creates my software distribution, just like, there we go, just like it did my patch. Again, maybe I want to deploy, you know, FileZilla to all my servers. And I can again use that scope, grab those devices, drop it on my FileZilla package, and either let it kick off at its defined time, or tell it to kick off now. And do the same thing with FileZilla that I did with, you know, patches, simply taking those and dragging them onto that scheduled tab to create a task, and then pulling from inventory the devices I want to assign that particular task to. And I also notice just below here, there's a second entry with a portal out to the end. You'll actually see that on a lot of these. The other option that you have, as opposed to scheduling and deploying that software through here, would be to simply advertise that that information out through the portal. So think of this as an end user kiosk that they just click on their desktop, and instead of deploying FileZilla from the console, maybe you just advertise it to them, give them access to it through the portal, and then they can simply click on it and install that software when they want it, if they need it. That way, you're not having to push things around needlessly, but you can give end users the access to be able to not only install software, but one of those tasks may just be a PowerShell script. So it may be something that you run against their device to help them keep their temp files cleaned or defrag their hard drive, rather than having to walk them through a manual process. So they might just have an icon that can go into the portal and click that take several actions like that to help keep their device clean and running smoothly. So there's different ways to be able to deploy those patches or deploy those applications, whether you're doing it en masse here through the console, or whether you're simply advertising it and making it available to the end user through that Ivanti portal. Now, the same thing again applies to deploying operating system images. So this gives you the ability to create all the different images from WIM and sysprep to, of course, just blanket executables, and being able to manage that for all your Windows devices, as well as Mac OS. So you can deploy those exactly. It comes back to that tasks and the scopes, where I can go in and create an operating system image and maintain a library of images, which I may want to make available via Pixie Boot. So, and I can do things one-on-one and just have these devices boot up to a Pixie library, and they can just select with their arrow keys and the enter key which operating system they want to deploy it on that device at that time. Or I can simply create a scheduled task, drag and drop it onto my task tab, and just like my software, just like my patches, there may be an OS image deployment task that I create. And that may be where I create, I go and create a scope of all my, maybe I'll go grab all my Windows 7 and all my Windows 08 machines and drop those onto my Win 10 deployment, so that I upgrade the right, set of devices. And maybe even build, I'll show you in a moment, we're going to look at some dashboards that will show you which of those machines are ready to accept that upgrade, perhaps. And now that hopefully everybody's on Win 10, now it's probably talking about whether it's 1809 or 1909, or now it's like 2005, because those are essentially operating systems, even though they're updates technically. They're the size of most operating systems, if not larger. So the same format would apply. You may not be doing a Windows 10 deployment, but it may be a 1909 1909 version or the 2005 version deployment, but being able to manage that in the same way. Now, all of the management capability and control that you have for your desktops and your laptops through the agent will also give you the same kind of capability for your mobile devices. So this gives you the ability to go in and create mobile agents, as well as, of course, all your desktop agents. So these agents you see here, these are that endpoint component that gets installed that gives you everything we've seen. It gives me the hardware software details. It gives me the patch capability. It gives me the remote control and app deployment, the portal, and all that. That's driven through that agent. And these agents you'll find again in my scheduled task tab, they get deployed in the same way. Right, so I see again kind of a common theme. It becomes pretty easy once you kind of figure out the format as to how things are done with Ivanti, within Ivanti endpoint management. You're going to build that package, build the patch, or build the operating system, and then create a task of it so that you can then easily schedule it. Now, in the agents, it allows you to set a whole host of settings, just like this one for this. If I was going to create a new iOS profile, I want to be able to control things like, I want to be able to control things like their PIN code settings and how often the screen locks. What kind of application restrictions do I want to set through that profile? Are they allowed to connect to iTunes? Can they use the camera? Things like that. A deep set of configuration settings that'll allow you to control and manage how that iOS device, in this case, is going to behave and will be configured when you apply that profile. So it allows you to manage, again, kind of get rid of having one application for your mobile devices and one application to create OS images and another to push application packages. Being able to streamline that, in a single interface and a single tool is fantastic. Now, in regards to packaging, one thing I wanted to mention, and another big benefit that is available with our endpoint management tool is something called Ivanti Package Studio. If you do any kind of software deployments today, or you're looking to do, start doing automated software deployments, this tool is invaluable and will save you weeks, if not months. And then it provides you with an automated way to go to the vendors, much like we're talking about with the patch content. And we went to the Shadowlick engine, and the Shadowlick engine gives us all the patch metadata for Java and Flash and Windows and everything. We're just downloading it and deciding what to do with it. Well, in much the same way, the Package Studio gives me the same kind of capability to be able to go and set up a download where I go to Ivanti, and Ivanti's providing me with packages for Adobe and Microsoft and Oracle and VMware, so that I don't have to go through the weeks or months building and designing, a new Office rollout or some new version of Autodesk was a recent example. So this gives you a simple store that you subscribe to, so that you can see for some of those vendors listed at the top, that's just a few of them, that I have a pre-built set of packages, so I can download this content and make it available within that distribution store inside of Ivanti Endpoint Management. So we'll see all these, MSI distributions, packages for everything across the board. And what makes it nice is if I wanted to, download anything and apply it into my environment, it's as simple as just clicking the box. It goes and grabs the file for me and downloads it, and then it automatically puts it into that package distribution list. So all of the software you see here, instead of having to create the packages to distribute these, it gives you a way within minutes you can make that content available, so that when you go into the management console, all the packages or distribution packages that you see here that I have in this environment, I pulled straight out of that package studio. So all this content that would have taken me probably months to go through and build, I loaded in about 30 minutes, so that I'm ready to distribute Adobe within an hour, versus having to spend a long time building that up from scratch. Now, another important piece to mention is how you report on all this content, what kind of metrics. And for that, I'm going to show you Ivanti's extraction tool, which provides you not only the ability to report, we're talking about Ivanti's endpoint management solution, but also on the other parts of the Ivanti platform. So it could be Ivanti's service management, service desk. It could be their identity management solution called Identity Director. This is a single reporting and dashboard interface across not only the Ivanti platform, but also third-party apps, which I'll mention in just a moment. So if you look into this endpoint management section, and I expand this out, it's got some pre-built, out-of-the-box dashboards. So I can start immediately drilling into, all that discovered data you just talked about. Begin, tracking and managing warranties, so I can get notifications and updates when things need to be renewed. We mentioned a while ago, talking about which devices need to be upgraded and which version, who's running which version. So, having a dashboard that may, allow you to easily break down and identify not just devices, operating systems or apps that need to be updated, but maybe hardware that has to be updated, prior to that. So this gives you the ability to pull a nice set of dashboards to be able to leverage all of that discovered content. And it also gives you the ability to drill down into this content. So let's take this one as an example. Let's say I only care about, at this point, maybe my Windows 7 devices, because there's probably a problem that I have them. As I drill into my Windows 7, all the other components on my dashboard also drill down for me, so that I can see, specifically out of those Windows 7 devices, how many are workstations and how many are laptops. And I may want to just take a look at those 67 laptops, right, and see how they're broken down by OS. So this gives me the ability to drill down into the data, so I can easily get details from all the other screen elements, or if I want to drill into specific, detailed records, I can do that as well. These can be scheduled, these can be exported in any number of formats, whether it's a Excel spreadsheet or whether you just want to give them a HTML graphic. But you also have the ability to build these very easily. So if there's not something out of the box that meets your needs, there's numerous templates. I'll show you here different types of layouts and screens, depending upon how much information you want to show, how much screen real estate you want to take up. But then you can give this kind of capability to anybody to be able to come in and build a dashboard for themselves with simple drag and drop tools, so that it doesn't take a developer for me to be able to come in and grab some information out of this list. So maybe I want a scorecard and I want to see how many incidents we've had for the month. So I can quickly go in and grab those dashboard elements and create a report or create a dashboard for myself or others, and simply save it to that library just like a file so that I can return to it in the future. But automatically having that ability so that if I want to drill in and filter on a particular user, now I'm looking at how many incidents did Luana have in the last month. Or if I want to look at Shonda, how many did she have? And what was her kind of distribution? So very powerful, without having to build anything to do that. Users can come in and easily create these dashboards for themselves. Again, not only for the Ivanti products, but also external tools. So you could create something like this cyber dashboard that may be pulling not only from Ivanti endpoint management and those agent updates, but maybe VMware events, maybe SolarWinds events, McAfee notifications. I may be getting numerous feeds from multiple sources, and this would give me the ability to have, an overall, dashboard view that shows me all the key data from all those sources, and be able to have those in one, interface. Now you can stack these up down here on the bottom, as you'll see, because it also is a great example of something that a lot of customers would put into the would put into a refresh cycle or put it on some kind of overhead, so that you might have dashboards like this in your support or ops center, right? Probably not flashing by quite this fast, but an example of how you can build very powerful dashboards and extraction, and not only automate the distribution of them, but be able to automate and cycle these so that you can have those critical views, whether it be an executive dashboard or an operations dashboard where you're watching for events and updates occurring on the network. Now with that, I wanted to open it up. I've seen that we've had some things flashing on the little chat window, Rich. So let me know if we've got any outstanding questions.
And you're right. We have had questions throughout. So far, I've been able to take care of every one of them. But folks, okay, if you have any more questions in regards to the tool that Kyle is showing us all today, please, by all means, type them in now, or actually just raise your hand right now and I'll unmute you and you can ask them directly of Kyle. That way you can actually have a conversation with him. I encourage you to do that. This is your time. This is a virtual lunch and learn, and we want you to get the information you came here for. So go ahead and either click on a question or raise your hand, and I'll unmute you and we'll let you go ahead and ask your question live for the audience. By all means, now's the time to do it. We've got Kyle's undivided attention, which is kind of a rare thing nowadays, especially with all the remote stuff that's going on out there. So Kyle, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to this presentation?
Well, just building off of your statement there about the remote, one big piece to mention is because of the re-architecture of the environment for many customers, one thing that's become critically important is being able to manage users regardless of where they are located. So a key feature with our end user management solution is the ability to provide external support for users that may be at home, they may be in a hotel lobby, airport terminal, or they may be sitting at home on the couch, but you need to be able to remote control them, maybe provide remote support. You may need to patch them if it's something that's critical and you just can't wait, or it may be an application that they need. So this cloud services appliance that is available with our end user management solution gives you the ability to provide those users that are remote. They're not connected to VPN. They're not on your network at all. They simply have the endpoint agent installed, and they have an internet connection through whatever provider that may be. Then this cloud service appliance gives them a point of contact so that you can remote control, you can deploy the patch, you can deploy the application. This is your proxy server for your endpoints that may be remote, so that you still have the capacity to remotely manage them without deference to their location. And again, that's all become all the more relevant in the last 3 months.
Okay, Kyle, we do have a question from Norman. Norman, I'm going to unmute you. I'm unmuting you now. So go ahead and ask your question, Norman, of Kyle.
It's very simple. What type of training do you receive when you purchase the product?
The training is going to be something that we would develop either as a part of the statement of work, whether we're delivering it as a part of the implementation services, or we can provide you with a list of Ivanti training, classroom style training. There's no training that's a part of the license itself, but that's certainly where Flycast, from an expertise perspective, can do, set up end user training as a part of your SOW, as well as admin training. But if you want something more formal or classroom, that would be through, Ivanti's training services.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions, folks? No, there's no, the only bad question is a question that you don't ask. So I encourage you, any questions, let's do that now. Anyone else out there that wants, oh, here's another one. Here's a question for you, Kyle. This one comes from Troy. Troy, I've just unmuted you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, for the patch updates features, is there a service that's within this that kind of tests those Microsoft updates before we can actually push them out, or is that something that we still have to do?
There's nothing that's automated. However, there is, I can figure out, don't have it open here. Let's see, it's probably under distribution. Yeah, there is the ability to automate it to the extent that this is an example of what we call a rollout project, where I'm going to have multiple steps that I create, multiple tasks, and again, broken up into phases, right? And this is where I can take those patches, and you'll notice I can put them into phases with timelines. And what this is allowing me to do is set up a lab environment, have a test or dev environment, that I would probably create as a scope, right? That would be one of those scopes, is test and dev machines or lab environment. So I could constantly use that. And then I can schedule these things out. I apply it to that test group. If there's no problems, then I might allow it to move to the next phase and apply it to maybe a larger group that are actually live users to test it out. And if no problems exist there, it's going to move on. Or if you encounter a problem, that's when you hit the stop. See the state of play over there. That's when you hit the stop button, just like you do on your remote control, and you stop that playback until you figure everything out, and then you hit play again. This last piece, this global auto fix, that's an automated feature of the patch and compliance module as well. So that if I wanted to set, a patch or a group of patches, if something was critical, and I wanted to simply say, fix this on any and every device, I can put it in an auto fix group. You'll see there's it's probably in here. Let's go look at scan. You can put it into an auto fix mode, which simply means that anytime I find that patch, anytime I see it on any device, fix it, simply deploy it. And you may have it do it, automatically on some schedule. or you may just do it manually. And you can see I can just pick that patch and say enable global auto fix. Anytime it's found, it gets installed. But I could do that for only certain scopes as well. So again, I might want to automatically fix it on servers, but I might not want to automatically push it out to my desktop machines. So there's a lot of flexibility in how you beyond what we've gone through in our short time today as to how you can deploy those and choose to deploy those to certain groups of machines.
And I thank everyone for your time today, and I hope that you got a lot out of this. And if you have any questions, I encourage you, by all means, reach out to us at Flycast Partners, website through our chat, or you can call us at 844 Flycast. That's 844-359-2278. Or I encourage you to email us. You can email me directly, or you can actually go ahead and email info@flycastpartners.com, and we'll be happy to get the questions answered for you as soon as possible. With that being said, I wish everyone a safe one going forward. Please stay safe out there, and we'll see you on our next presentation. Thank you again.